Very often we see killers that are overwhelmingly guilty. I'm talking about when the court process is playing out, it's still quote unquote alleged, right? Like, we know what it is. They're guilty. They did it. They don't have a chance in hell at beating the case at trial. We'll still see them go to trial very often. There's instances in which they'll take something off the table, or there'll be something in regards to a plea bargain that they just can't turn down, or for whatever reasons, their lawyers getting through them in their crazy head, or should I say their evil head, take this plea deal. Don't waste the court's time. You're guilty. You don't have a shot in hell at beating the case. It's just not happening. But it is so many times we see them say, F it, I'm going to trial. Hell, even sometimes represent themselves. You know what I mean? Leave into the comments those that follow true crime and this kind of content. I'm sure if you tuned into this video, make sure to subscribe and hit the buttons and everything. But comment some cases where you were surprised to see someone to go to trial, like they didn't have a chance, or they pled out, vice versa, just for conversation's sake here. But this case in which we're talking about right now, where there's some things going on in regards to a plea bargain possibly, and I really don't know what to make of it. So most definitely I would like your guys' help in making sense of what in the world's going on. This is a case that I haven't really seen talked about that much, other than initially when it all first happened. Obviously, this is a school shooting. They're always very publicized in the news. But for some reason, I feel like this case, don't get me wrong, there's been coverage and everything, but just for whatever reasons, the true crime discussions online don't pick up on this case that much. But we definitely got to get into it and talk about it right now. And it's a pretty tragic and just unconventional case. I guess there was another similar case to this one, because parenting is in the mix and under a microscope in a major way, which is something that I always want to talk about. Being a parent in this ever-evolving world we're living in, where the internet has just took over, society has changed so much, and I feel like in a lot of ways parenting is almost being taken away from the parents in so many ways. Tap in and comment and let me know if you feel me on that, if you've experienced that, or if you feel differently. But we're talking about Colt Gray, who was 14 at the time of this high school shooting. He's now 16. He's been in custody, and the father, Colin Gray, is already convicted. He was taken to trial and held accountable, convicted of second-degree murder, some manslaughter and such. But he has not been sentenced yet, from my understanding. But it's been breaking all over the news that the son, who is now 16, as we stated, is going to have some kind of a pre-trial hearing to essentially, I don't know, try to get him to plea out, or it's a bit unclear what exactly the deal is, because I haven't seen any talks of pleading out, so it looked like he was going to go to trial just like his father, but they're going on the record in a hearing for an unnegotiated plea bargain, which is kind of wild, because like I stated about anyone, the way that quote unquote justice system, the court system works, the defense and the prosecutors get together and hash out some kind of deal. But in this instance, when they're talking about an unnegotiated plea, there doesn't really seem to be a deal offer, but then there's talks of a plea, and it's just such a crazy case as this kid, 14 years old, the mom, who the family had all kinds of problems. That's a big part in here. Parenting, broken homes. You know what I mean? If something's going on, don't be quiet. Push and get help. And don't let the system let you down, because we see this all the time with different true crime cases or just stuff in the news, whether it's CPS, whether it's Homeland Security with this trafficking stuff, whether it's the feds. Like, the system is just letting families down. There's so many instances where it's like, man, something should have been done about this. Something could have been done, not just sitting here looking with 2020 hindsight like there's no reason. Something couldn't have been done about this, and it could have been stopped. And the mom, she speaks about how, I believe, she had her issues and all that as well, but she and the husband, again, the father, Colin Gray, who is convicted, awaiting sentencing, she basically says he was a shit father. They had 3 kids together. I think she had did some jail time, some rehab or whatever, but I'm not here to shit on her. I don't know what kind of reaching out she did for help prior to all this, because she spoke in court about coming back around her son within the household with this estranged husband or ex. And, she could see that her son was struggling, and he had anxiety. He had a lot of problems going on. I mean, this kid had a shrine of another high school shooter in his room. Like, this is wild-ish. And she even tried to get help the day of this horrible tragedy.
New details are emerging in the deadly shooting at a Georgia high school last week that took the lives of 4 people and injured 9 others. William Brigham has more.
Jeff, the mother of the 14-year-old suspect reportedly contacted Appalachia High School 30 minutes before the shooting began to warn of a, quote, extreme emergency regarding her son. During a 10-minute phone call, Marcee Gray asked a counselor to find her son, but school officials were not able to locate him in time. This has raised even more questions about how yet another tragedy unfolded, despite some warnings being sounded ahead of time. For more on the latest developments, we are joined by Chase McGee of Georgia Public Broadcasting. Chase, thank you so much for being here. So the mother makes this phone call to school officials saying, please find my son. Do we know anything more about the content of that call or what might have prompted it?
While we don't know much about the content of the phone call, we have some reports from her and her family, the mother and her family, about what might have prompted it. She says she received a message from her son that concerned her to the point where she decided it would be best to call a school official. And while we don't know what was in the content, like I said, it obviously prompted them enough to take action that a school administrator left to seek out the algebra class where the suspected shooter was in. However, we know by the time that the school administrator got to that classroom, the shooting started just minutes later.
And apparently there was some confusion because I take it he was new to the school and there was another student with a very similar name that might have caused some confusion.
Right, and that's right. Colt Gray had only been in the school system for a couple of weeks, and of those days had maybe only attended a couple of days of school. And so the school administrator was seeking out Colt, and there was a student with a similar name who came up in some early reports, and that confusion over which student that the school administrator was looking for might have led to some delay in trying to figure out who exactly they were looking for in that classroom.
Are school officials facing scrutiny for receiving this warning, and while they did try to locate him, not perhaps taking more drastic action like locking the school down?
Apology, you guys, for all the background noise and all that. That was back a couple of years when this tragedy happened. That the mom, it sounds almost like maybe the kid was second guessing if he wanted to do this or what, that he reached out to the mom and she called the school, and they dropped the ball as well. They didn't lock the school down. They were confused as to which kid they were talking about, similar names and all that. And the tragedy still commenced forth. But here we sit here now, the father convicted, actually took the stand at trial. As the mom stated, she's seen their son needed help, and the father said, F it. He didn't do anything about it. Could the mom have done more? Should she have done more? I'm not really privy to if she had reached out to different agencies or social workers prior to all this. As she spoke about, she believed that the father, again, convicted Colin Gray, didn't want there to be any looking into the family, because he was a abusive shit father, and had an AR-15 with the kid to have access to it, and all the warning signs were there. And it's just an all-around really sad situation. Again, I'm not seeing many people speak about this case. Again, comment your thoughts about the case, and if you're with me where you're not seeing a lot of people speak about it, like it's a pretty insane case where the father was brought to justice because of his, being a shitty dad and allowing his son to have access to this weapon. And I know there was another case I feel like happened back in 2021, which was another school shooting where parents were brought to justice and for their child's role in the case, and I'm sure the dad will never get out. He'll be locked up for good. But here the son sits, looking like he was going to go to trial as well. They charged him as an adult. He's now 16 years old. And now we're just getting all these reports of some kind of court proceedings for an unnegotiated plea to happen. I mean, what kind of deal are they going to cut this kid? I say kid, but he took lives. And, there's often a very split debate when it comes to kids killing, what kind of second chance they deserve, or leniency they do or don't deserve, or second chance they do or don't deserve. And we're going to see what gets hashed out when it comes to these court proceedings. So stay tuned for future videos for updates on this case. And let me know what kind of plea bargain you think will be worked out, should be worked out, and just all around, again, your thoughts on the case. Like, it's just crazy. A couple who seemingly hate each other, estranged, split up, and have 3 kids in common. And the one kid who's 14 is showing all these warning signs, and the dad, who's a dirtbag, doesn't want social workers or anything, or mental health professionals being involved, because he's a piece of shit, plain and simple. And his son goes and carries this crime out. It's like there's just so many questions that remain unanswered as the court process plays on. So jump into the comments, stay tuned, and I'll be with you guys on the next video, as well as other true crime cases and topics.